Call this meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Bellato.
Here.
Bellato here. Diego.
Here.
Diego here. Rita. Rita absent. Donahue. Donahue absent. Holly. Holly absent. Farnwell.
Here.
Farnwell here. Osling.
Here.
Osling here. Thompson.
Here.
Thompson here. Carr.
Here.
Carr here. Pittman.
Here.
Pittman here. Slattery. Slattery absent. Poulos. Poulos absent. Johnson. Johnson absent. 7 present.
Thank you very much. We move now to public comment. Let me make the introduction. This is the City Council of the City of Rhode Island special meeting agenda along with the Mayor, Miguel Vargas. Special meeting agenda for Tuesday, February the 5th, 2019. We started at 6:30 p.m. here at the City Council Chambers located at 2434 Vermont Street, Rhode Island, Illinois 60406. And right now it's basically 6:32 p.m. Again, we'll open up for public comment. We'll pass it. Now we'll move on. Let me make this comment. I'm going to be monitoring, I know the city clerk, myself, and all of you will monitor the weather. Depending on how bad, I'm expecting the weather to start changing within the next 70 minutes. Try to outside with the ice. So if we need, we'll start as far as we can. And then if we have to continue, we'll continue the discussion. Action items. Again, the purpose of the special meeting is to discuss the appropriations for the city of Rhode Island. No other business will be conducted. Mr. Marzell.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Tonight we are doing the appropriations budget workshop. As the Mayor did indicate, there is no action that will be taken tonight. This is strictly for the input from the council as well as for the departments to present what we have prepared in terms of our appropriations. I want to thank the Chief and Chief, Jim, Howard, Janelle, Randy, Teddy, Bob, Don, and Carmen for their hard work on putting these documents together. A lot of work went into putting this together. Many meetings over many months, as well as quarterly update meetings to make sure that we can maintain and see where we're at with the budget or the appropriations as we've gone through it. As it sits right now, this is a living document. This document is not finalized. I would really appreciate any input the council has on any changes, additions, reductions, or if you would like justifications on these numbers. Now would be a wonderful time to do that, and I value your input. Kind of an agenda for tonight, I'd like to go over the revenues first. We did adjust the revenues from last year, then go into the expenses department by department. And just as an overview, as this document stands right now, the city's projecting $29.8 million in revenue and $33.9 million in expenses. In 2018, we projected $32.2 million in revenues and $33.6 in expenses, but we received only $26 million in revenues and approximately $24.3 in expenses. Now, we are still getting the final numbers for 2018. We have not gotten everything done, and when we have the audit, we'll have the exact numbers for 2018. And again, I think this shows as a testament for staff's diligence throughout the year to watch our expenses and make sure that we weren't overspending or we're deferring projects as we went through the year just to make sure that we weren't going over. So with that being said, I would like to start off with the revenues. You did receive the updated document on Friday.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
And I want to make sure that we're all working off the same document. So if you didn't print out what you received on Friday, Janelle is handing out what was mailed out on Friday. So as stated before, we are projecting $29.8 million in revenues.
Can I just clarify?
Yes.
The document, which is the vote, we received the document from you previously. Is that this document?
The one that you received last Friday is the most recent one. There were some minor tweaks
Okay.
based off of some updated numbers. And the ones that Janelle just handed out are also the ones that are the most recent documents.
You know, we're gonna need one for all.
So going through, I'm not sure if there's any questions you have on the revenues. As I stated before, staff was more conservative for 2019 in terms of our revenues. I like to project revenues as accurate or as low as possible and expenses as high as possible, just so that we can hopefully be in a better position if revenues come in higher or hopefully not lower than anticipated. I know that there is a question on 3230, which is the liquor licenses. We are looking into that. I know that we did collect revenue on liquor licenses, and they just have been out reported, showing that the actual in 2018 was zero, but we know for a fact that we did
It's all
zero.
posted to business licenses as opposed to a split, so.
Okay, so that's the answer on that.
So are you looking for questions on revenue? right
Yeah,
now?
any questions, or if you see something that doesn't look appropriate, we can make an adjustment.
Okay.
Go ahead.
There's several items under revenue where we didn't collect anything last year, and yet you're projecting the same amount for this year. And like sewer permits, some of them are small, and they could be overlooked. Sewer permits, $200, street opening deposits, $600. But there are some that are huge. Bond proceeds for $775,000 that you're including as income for this year when we collected nothing last year. Note proceeds, you've got $500,000. We collected nothing last year. And then on the second page, property tax revenue, you have nothing collected last year and you're projecting $2 million.
I'm sorry, what number is that, just so I can make sure?
3005, 3005. And then right below that, PPT revenue, 31,000. Again, property tax revenue, 1,225,000. And then PPT revenue, again, 23,000. And then engineering reimbursement. We collected nothing last year, and you're projecting 450,000 for this year. So I took all those amounts, and I deducted them from what you're projecting our revenue is going to be for this year. And with those amounts deducted, assuming that we didn't collect anything last year, I don't know how we're going to collect these millions of dollars this year. My projected revenue comes out to $24,792,325.
Well, if I can address those point by point, like was stated for 3230, the liquor licenses, we were charging those to business license. So if we go down to business license, which is
It's actually up above it.
above that, that's why the actual for the business license for 2018 was higher than what we are projecting for 2019.
But that was not one of my concerns. My concern is where we collected nothing, all those lines in the actual, that's just a little dash, I'm assuming that means we collected nothing.
Well, I was addressing the first one that has a dash, which is the liquor license. Let me go down to the other ones.
Oh, okay.
Street opening deposits, that is dependent upon special projects that could happen in front of a residential or a business.
Yeah, this,
And those are minor, so we just carry those over from what we did in 2018.
okay, what about 3,500 bond proceeds, 775,000?
That one I'm gonna have to look into.
There's a, like I said, I can overlook the little ones. Note proceeds, 3998. We collected nothing, and you're projecting 500,000.
I'm sorry, 35.
3998. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that your revenue projection is
Well-
extremely inflated.
The note proceeds, actually, that is from the tax anticipation warrant, and we received that in calendar year 2017. And we did, based off of when we went out for the tax anticipation warrant, which then we used in 2018. So that's why we showed a 0 for the note proceeds in 2018. And as you know, we did go out for a tax anticipation warrant again for 2019, which was received in 2019. So that's the actual there.
To my mind, that's a liability.
Well, it's also revenue that we received.
There's also a payback later on in the expense portion.
Yes.
Okay, and then you've got 30,005, 3140, 3905, and 3140 again.
For the 3005 on page 2, we actually have that at the top of table, page 1. So that may have been a typo. And we can look into that to make sure that we have that. On the top of page 1, 3005, we have we received 3.3 million. In 2018, we're projecting 3.4 million.
Okay, but you have these figures added into your total.
I will have to get back to you on that.
Okay, because that's millions of dollars that you're adding into revenue that we're not going to be receiving. If these appear somewhere else, then they're being added in twice.
It's actually those 4, there's only, sorry, just those 4 in a row there.
Yes, I see.
And if that's the $3,400,000 that's on the top line, you've got to take that $3,400,000 off the $29 million.
You're correct. Let us look into that and get back with you, and when we present this as a final document, we will have that addressed.
Okay. And then I did have another question, the 3980, the IGIT grant revenue account. You show an actual for 2018 of $949,561.72. And I was just curious, I mean, maybe you don't qualify this year, but you've got nothing for,
And Mark, the IGIT, that was for?
That's for Longwood?
Longwood, correct.
That's done, we're just waiting for final payments from the state.
okay, so we won't qualify for that in the.
No, that's fine. That'll be
Okay,
fine.
that's fine, all right. I just wanted clarification on that.
Alderman Carr, I do agree with the numbers on page 2, the 2 million, the 31,000, the 1.2 million, and the 23. We will look into that.
Okay. All right, and then the engineering reimbursement, you showed an appropriation of $450,000 in 2018, nothing was received, and you've got $450,000 for 2019.
Yeah, and again, that's based off of projects that could or could not happen in town. I know that, I'm not sure what projects are going to be happening in town where we would send it out for our engineer for review and then we get reimbursed.
I don't think we should count on income that may or may not happen.
We can zero that out. And then that would just be additional revenue at the end of the year.
Yeah, I would rather see it as extra at the end of the year rather than saying, this is what we're gonna have. It would be like me saying, I think my rich uncle might die and he might leave me money, maybe.
If the council feels more comfortable with that, then we can zero that out for 2019, and then, like we said, just be additional revenue at the end of the year. And then we'll zero that out for 2019. 3578 engineering reimbursements will be zeroed out for 2019. Any other questions on revenues?
I was gonna let somebody else ask. I just have a comment.
Okay.
I was looking over all the, what we appropriated last year and what we actually brought in. And I understand that some things just don't happen for whatever reason. But it also looks to me like there's a lot of cases where we left money on the table that could have been collected. And I don't know who's responsible for that. I don't know who's supposed to be watching that type of thing.
Well, I will take responsibility for the revenue projections for last year. This was my first year last year. I wasn't sure how it was done in the past. I was basing off of what had been done in the past. And I think you were right. Based off of what we appropriated for 2018, it does appear that we could have left money on the table, but I was here for 2 or 3 months. I hadn't been through a full budget cycle, and I wasn't sure how the revenues do actually end. So I will take responsibility for that. If there's no other question on revenue, we can go into expenses if this pleases the council. Again, as stated, in 2018, we appropriated $33.6 million in expenses. As of the date of this printing, we have $24.3 million in expenses, and we're projecting for 2019, $33.9 million in expenses. I'd like to take this department by department, if it's okay. Beginning with the mayor's office, 401. I would like to state at the beginning, just so that this question, so I can address this, and hopefully the question doesn't come up over and over. Staff did project for non-union employees a 3% cost of living adjustment, just like we have settled with the police union. And then, in addition, one of the goals that I have for 2019 is to implement a performance evaluation system for our non-union employees, where they can receive between 0 and 3% based off their performance. That doesn't automatically mean that every non-union employee will get a 3% merit increase, but I did want to put a number as a placeholder in for those merit increases. Since before I know when, we have not had a formal performance evaluation program for non-union employees, and we haven't really given out a merit-based or merit increase to our non-union employees. So that is a goal. We are working on that. We would not begin that program until the program is in place. So those merit increases wouldn't happen until the program is finalized. The appropriated for the mayor's office is a little bit under $1,000 less than was appropriated in 2018. And there really aren't any significant changes. We are upping the office supply because we ran through that very early in the year. We are putting in there vehicle parts and vehicle maintenance for the pool vehicle that we have. We were taking those out of the police department, which was not appropriate for, since that is a pool vehicle for City Hall. And those are really the only items of note for the mayor's office.
Which salaries are covered under the mayor's office?
That would be for the mayor's secretary or administrative assistant.
Okay, so it's just the mayor and his secretary?
Correct. And the mayor is under part-time mayor.
I really have to ask a question. So In 2017, Marisol's salary was roughly $42,000. And now 2 years later, you're asking that we pay her $56,000? That's a $15,000 a year raise in 2 years?
No, you guys.
Alderman Carr. In 2017, it appears that the mayor, that Marisol was only partially allocated to the mayor's office. The rest of her salary went to 409, which is general administration. As well as in 2018, I believe it was the first 2 months of the year, she was allocated partially to general administration as well as the mayor's office. So when you see full-time at the top for 18 actual, the mayor was actually put in partial full-time and partial part-time. I'm not sure why that happened, but it did. That's why it looked so large. So actually, yes, her salary was $52,700, and it would just be, it would only be maybe $3,000 and something.
That's at the
If-
very high end, with
Correct.
3% cost of living and up to a 3%. So in 2017, it was split between Gen Gov and the mayor's office. And in 2018 is when we fully moved her salary over to the mayor's office. So it's not a $15,000 increase over 2 years.
But even if I go along with that, you're talking about a $5,000 increase for this year, and that's a lot more than 3%.
It's a 3% cost of living in addition to the 3%.
Well, it's not 3% anymore.
Up to 3%.
Oh, you're talking about cost of living and an additional?
Yes, and let me
Merit-based.
just take a step back and explain. Our police and fire are under a step increase program where every year that they are here, they automatically, regardless of performance, receive a step increase, a salary increase. What I'm proposing for non-union is rather than just having an automatic step increase from year to year, is we base any kind of an increase for those non-union employees based on their performance. And so they get a merit increase of up to 3%. And I don't have these salary schedules in front of me, but between the cost of living adjustment for police and fire and their step increase, it's much more than.
It is. I think it's a ridiculous amount more. It comes up to like 8%. I mean, just looking at these numbers here, what she was paid and what you're projecting she might be paid, there's a difference of $5,000 divided into the $51,000 that she's making. I personally, I can't go along with that. I can't do that. I don't.
And again, this is a merit, performance evaluation merit increase. It's
I
based
think,
off of-
I think then we should substitute the merit-based instead of having just a step-based where if you don't, if we're giving everybody the same 3% and you want to also give a merit raise, then maybe we should just be giving merit raises.
We would have to negotiate that for the union contracts, but if you'd like to put a step increase based off of years of service for non-union, staff could look into that. I personally feel, though, it's better to give performance evaluation increases based off the merit of their contributions to the organization than just they were here for another year and they get an
I know,
increase.
but I don't think that we can afford that. It's a great idea, but we have to look at what we can afford. What can we afford to do? We can't afford 6% a year if everybody performs at peak. We can't afford 6% a year for every employee. I'm just saying.
I value your input. If you have a better proposal or a different proposal, I'm open to it.
Could I just ask a clarifying question on that? What would trigger the merit increase, and how likely is it that, I don't know if it's possible to say, across the board, what merit increase would you expect to actually
From-
pay out?
From my experience, when I have seen other performance evaluation programs, it's based off the anniversary date of that employee. So if they were hired in October, they wouldn't be evaluated until the month of October. And there would be different criteria: quality of work, quantity of work, innovation, timeliness, customer service, professionalism. And it can be as simple or as complicated as you'd like it to be. I've seen some very successful ones where, based off your score at the end, you might get a 2.2% increase as opposed to a flat 2 or a 3 or 2.5. I would prefer that type of a performance evaluation program because it really accurately reflects their contributions to the organization, to the city. And, you know, if someone is really great with their quality of work, but their customer service is lacking, then they're not gonna get that full increase based off their performance.
And, you know, I understand Alderman Carr's concern about what we can afford also. Is it possible to also have some kind of a cap if, you know, revenues are not what they, you know, if we have a problem, we run into a problem, can we kind of back off this?
Well, that's the final component for this. Currently, we don't have salary schedules for any of our non-union employees. I would also propose putting a salary schedule so there's a beginning rate of pay and an ending rate of pay. And that would adjust with the cost of living throughout the years. And if you have been here for 10 years and you've been a stellar employee for 10 years and you're still a stellar employer at year 11, but you're already at the max, well, then you only get the cost of living adjustment. You don't get a merit increase because that is what the position is valued at within the organization, both internally and externally.
But I guess my question really is, let's just say, you know, property tax revenue is way down or something. You know, we're finding 6 months through the year, we find we're really in a tight spot because things just didn't go like we expected them to. Can we then say, you know, no, we can't do the merit increases this year?
Yes.
We just can't.
Yes, and since they're non-union employees, we have the latitude to do that, as opposed to union employees where, regardless of their performance, if they hit their anniversary, they automatically get that increase.
Okay.
And that's why we have been doing quarterly budget reviews throughout 2018. And if we see that property tax revenues are not coming in as appropriate, we can adjust. I'm not anticipating this performance evaluation program to be done until second or third quarter of 2019, just because it takes time to put together a well thought out program. But for the appropriations purpose, again, appropriations is the authority to spend up to a certain amount, not saying that we will spend that amount.
And I think it's probably too early to know for sure how we did last year, but I would note that it seems like you were successful. I mean, as it stands right now, I know their numbers are still coming in for 2018, so that won't change because there's expenses and revenues yet to arrive on this. I'm assuming, is that correct? We don't know everything for 2018.
No, we're
yet.
still waiting on a few last
Right.
items. And when we get the audit, that's when we'll finally know the exact numbers.
But our expenses in 2017, from the statement I have previously, are roughly $28 million. And expenses we're showing so far in 2018 are like $23,200,000. So that's, I mean, that would be $5 million under. I'm sure I don't think we will be under $5 million. I'd love it if we were, but no.
Yes, and in 2018, we adjusted. We did not do certain expenditures that we had budgeted for or appropriated for because we knew that revenues weren't coming in.
So you're watching?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
For the, it's not really a response to the mayor's budget, it's just overall so I can get clarity of what you're looking at when you talk about the merit and the regular rate of pay. So when I evaluate my secretaries at work, we have a rubric, 6 quadrants, and the most you can get is 4. And that score is translated to percentage raise. It's been like this for years. I know 3% we say is the cost of living raise, but it's always compounded. So if a person gets a 4 or 3.5 on the rubric, they get 3.5% raise. It's always compounded. So within 2 years, they're already 6% if they're getting the middle of the road. You know, you're saying 3% automatic cost of living. I'm just saying using as an average because it's been about 3%. And on top of that, a merit pay.
Yes.
And that's compounded.
Yes, but we'd also have a salary range so that once they reach.
Which we have to, I understand. You know. I think our secretary range is between 42 and 62, or something in that range. I think it's high. I agree with Alderman Carter. It's pretty high. It's pretty generous. I've worked in 2 different school districts. Administrator only one, but that's the way it's always been done there. And I don't think if someone gets more than 4% a year, that's doing really good. You know, on just an average basis for my negotiations contracts, when we're doing school contracts, if you're getting around 4% a year, because you always look at it as compounded. And I understand your schedule changes per year, because our schedule might change 1% or 2% a year, and within that lane and step, we have the 2 or 3% also. So I understand what you mean over the year, the cost of living increases with the schedule moving up. But I look at it this way. So make $100,000 a year this year, $100,000 a year. And you get middle of the road, you get your 3%, you're making 103 next year. And you get your middle of the road, you're getting 1065 or something like that, because it's compounded. It's 103,000, adding another 3% or whatever. So it's still moving pretty quickly. You know, if you want to cut that in half, I'll only use 100 grand because it's easy math. But I still think that's pretty high anywhere around here. You know, when I do the township budgets, even the park district budgets, when I was on there, as the finance committee's there, we never give raises over 3 or 4% when it's just a regular raise every year. I just think it's high. That's my opinion. Anything more than 3-4% is pretty high every year, unless the job qualifications have changed, responsibilities have changed, and by all means, then they're working a different job or their job description has changed. But if it's the same job every year, I think over 3% is high. So, that's my opinion. Because compound interest is a beautiful thing.
The goal that I have is for our employees, our union employees that have the step increase, they get the cost of living, but then they also get that step increase automatically.
But that step, the schedule's not moving up another 3% along with the 3% a year.
I would want to look at the schedule, but I know that it's this is a starting point. I'm open for any input. I mean,
That's why I said it's not really directed at this particular situation. That's just more of my opinion.
And, you know, staff can prepare what this performance evaluation program looks like, present it to City Council. I was just putting in up to a 3% as part of the appropriations process, knowing that not all employees are going to get that 3%. I mean, it's, you know, it could be 1%, it could be 1.5. I don't know based on it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I just heard you say that employees would get a cost of living plus a step plus a performance.
No, that's not what I said.
No.
Union employees get a cost of living plus a step. Non-union employees would get a cost of living plus a merit, no step.
I thought you started out saying that they would get a step and a merit.
That's not what I said.
No? Okay.
So the 3% merit raise, you're saying isn't going to happen until second or third quarter? And it's not going to be retroactive to January 1, it would start.
I would like it to start based off their anniversary date. So any employee that has an anniversary date beyond the implementation date of that would be eligible for that calendar year merit increase.
Next time.
Correct.
So if somebody was hired in February and you don't do this merit increase until September, the February people will get it next February.
Correct.
Okay. So it's not going to be a full 3% if you decide to stay at 3%. I just looked up the COLA and it's 2% for 2018.
That's what we had originally appropriated for 2018 last year.
No.
Oh.
Well, what he said, what the government says for 2018 COLA is 2%.
Okay.
So maybe it should be adjusted 2% and a possible 3% merit. So that saves some.
A 2% COLA for non-union employees?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what the U.S. government said for 2018.
Repeat that again.
What?
Could you repeat what?
The U.S. government said the COLA for 2018 was 2%. Instead of 3%. Yeah.
If I may, I Maynard, on this discussion of merit pay or step pay. In my opinion, not only should it be based on what our revenues coming in, if we can afford it, but if we're gonna make it either very subjective or very direct, with no subjectivity. Because if you're gonna leave it to the department head to evaluate, and then possibly someone else to evaluate, the instrument has to be assessed or analyze what kind of instrument that we're gonna make across the board, so it's fair, not subjective. The question becomes the step, that most places use is the step or the increase. Again, there's different ways of approaching this. I think my personal opinion is that they should be recommended, brought to the council or to the committees, discussed, and fairness, the least amount of subjectivity. Because otherwise, I like somebody, I'm gonna bad with it. I like this person, give them 6-8%.
And Treasurer Bellato, I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
Subjectivity should be taken out as much as possible. And there should also be a review process where even if the supervisor reviews them, it should be reviewed by the department head as well as someone in finance. And if someone looks like they're being evaluated as the next best thing since sliced bread, then a question needs to be raised. Is this person really the next best thing since sliced bread, and why? They could be. I mean, we do have some very high-performing employees in the city.
A lot of the employees have been working, that I know of, at least 15 years, that possibly maybe didn't even get 1%. So that's why I'm stressing it's got to be done very objectively, not subjectively. And I personally prefer to start with a basic, if you wanted to start with something basic, just a simple step. First year, second year, 5 years, whatever. And then if you want to do something else, whatever you're going to suggest, bring it through the process so we all have our input into it. And the legislative body makes the policies and procedures.
Before we go on, let me make this announcement. We get in 46 minutes, heavy rain, and the ice will start. So I'm going to close this meeting in 45 minutes so that you can proceed with the other meetings. So go ahead. So until 7:50. Go ahead.
I just want to correct, I looked at 2018 COLA and I thought that was what they would have increased for 2019. And I looked at 2019 COLA and it's 2.8%, so it is close to. I just wanted to correct that.
I'd be happy to bring the performance evaluation tool back to the city council, or if you want to set up a special committee to review that with staff as we develop it, I'd be happy to do that. I agree with Carmen, it needs to be as objective as possible, not subjective, and there needs to be a review process in place just to make sure that there's not favoritism happening for the employees. But a good employee, in my opinion, should be rewarded for their good work and contribution to the city. Are there any other questions on the mayor's office?
Under 2018 actual, we've got the full-time salaries at $66,757, and the mayor's salary at $16,800.
I'm sorry, which document are you looking at?
The one that you handed out, the mayor's office,
Give it.
lines 5,100 and 5,200.
The reason it looks like that is again, it was told to me when I asked the same question, that the mayor was split between part-time and full-time. So part of the mayor's salary, because his total salary should be $33,600, the balance of the $16,800 was put into full-time.
Why would it be split?
I'm not aware that was something I can talk to David about, because that was a decision that was made prior to me coming. But as of right now for 2019, it has been corrected, and the mayor will be listed in all of 5,200, Mayor Saul in all of 5,100. So we won't have the split or the discrepancy.
The original version we had it that way, so that's why it's weird.
but
It does, I mean, it does kind of seem there might be an error on the new one, because
Yeah,
the actual appropriation don't match. I mean, if you, the line number 5,200 is 66,000, the appropriation is 56,000. So it just seems like the actual ought to be the appropriation or something.
Are you looking at 2018 actuals?
2018 actual, line 5,100, 2018 actual is listed as 66,757, and then the appropriation is 56,650, so.
Yes, and that's because we had the mayor's salary split, in 2018, we had the actual mayor's salary split between full-time and part-time.
Gotcha, okay.
And
I'm
in
getting it.
2019, we are correcting that and having it.
I'm getting it. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, so it's being corrected in 2019.
Yes.
Yes, got it. Now I can see. No, this is- Oh, I see. Yes, yes. Yeah.
It pleases the council, moving on to account 402, Finance Department. Some items to point out: 5,100 full-time salaries. You'll see a decrease in this, and that is only because we are reallocating my salary, Janelle's salary, and I believe one other employee between both the finance department and water sewer fund. I spend a significant amount of time, as well as other employees that are in this line item, working on water department items. It is appropriate to attribute a portion of the salaries to the water fund for the time that we are spending working on water-related items. So that's why you will see a decrease in the full-time salaries for 5,100. Other items to note. Really, there aren't any other significant items. It's actually $2,000 less overall. We did increase subscriptions and publications to reflect some of the things that actually are going on. We did increase travel and transport so that we can get to and from meetings and trainings. And just one other item to note, across the board, the city did put in for 5610 unemployment insurance. This is an unknown. In years past, we didn't have anything in unemployment insurance, and in case we do have any terminations, layoffs, we want to be able to account for that expense. I'm not planning on any layoffs or terminations. I don't know how the year is going to go, but I do want to have some money in unemployment insurance in case something does arrive. So I think we have that number, either $5,000 per department or $10,000, depending on the size of that department. I'm hoping that we do not spend that money.
Is your 20,000 for part-time, is that including your merit thing?
We are actually proposing to have a part-time intern that would not be eligible for a merit increase. That would be an internship. That individual would work on a number of different projects, including assisting the fire department with data entry, hopefully helping out with this performance evaluation program, or any other projects that we could help the city.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be an intern, interns don't get paid, so they'd be a part-time employee.
Well, we're proposing a paid internship to get a higher quality or a graduate
Gotcha.
student level or college student level individual.
why is there overtime?
Because in 2018, both, Pam Castro, who is our accounts payable clerk, had to work extra hours on a couple different occasions, and we had to pay her for that extra time. And so for 2019, we're including a little bit of overtime in case there are instances where she has to stay late to get the accounts payable ready to go, or a special project that came up that requires her to stay after hours. Again, it wasn't very much in 2018. I thought 2,000 would be
I think,
a little bit of a cushion.
I think that's more like opening the door to perpetual overtime. We've never allocated for that in the past. If it comes up, okay, you paid $119, but to say, well, this year, we're gonna make a provision for $2,000 worth. You know, work expands to fill the time allowed.
Well, we did appropriate for overtime in 2017, so it's not, this is a new item altogether. And anytime that this has come up, Pam has approached me in advance saying, hey, this is, you want me to do this, it is going to take me this amount of time, is that okay? And in the few instances that it happened in 2018, I said, yes, I need this done by this time, you can stay after.
I'm just saying 2,000 is awfully high.
If you have a better number, I'm open to it.
I go with maybe 500.
And if 500 is the number, then we'll do our best to work within that. I mean, obviously in 2018, we were 119.42 cents. And it comes down to time management, which again would tie into the performance evaluation. One of the criteria I'd like to have is time management. Any other questions for finance department?
Why are we doubling the amount for part-time salaries? I know you're talking about an intern, but we already have part-time people that could be helping out with the fire department or wherever you might need them, apparently. And to go from 5,300 to 20,000.
Well, again, I'm looking at either a graduate level intern or a undergraduate level intern as opposed to a part-time. I mean, yeah, I know it says part-time, but I am looking at an intern. And even at $10 an hour, that's.
And what data entry do you foresee them doing for the fire department?
Well, the EMS reporting software, we are many years behind on data entry.
I know, but
for that.
the firemen are supposed to be being trained to do that. So us hiring an intern, you're saying no.
They're not trained to do it, they're trained to use it going forward. The data entry, we have to go back at least 6 years to 8 years. So in addition to all their other duties, it's going to be very difficult and time consuming for them to be tied up on a daily basis entering that. So if we could have a little help, that would be, I think that's where that was coming from.
I just hate to see this become a regular thing,
Well, hopefully once it's all said and done, that we're caught up.
you know, to start hiring people to do what our people are being paid to do already. I can see where you're behind and you would need to catch up, but I wouldn't want it to turn into, I mean, once the fire department is trained to make the entries, I wouldn't want this to turn into something that needs to be continued.
Well, this is a one-year appropriations, and we can look at it from year to year, but I would like to get an intern in at a graduate level or undergraduate level to assist with some special projects that we have not been able to accomplish in the past years. Any other questions or comments on the finance department? Okay, moving on to 403 clerk's office. This overall went up by about $25,000. The main component of that is the consultant, thank you, which is for the codification of the city code. We deferred and did not do this for the past 4 or 5 years. And every year that we don't do this, that number is going to go up. And as I think you've heard from a number of different individuals, it's very cumbersome right now to find the correct code. This would reduce on legal costs as well as staff time to find the correct code and the correct location. And then going forward, that number would be reduced to only codify what we did in the previous year.
And I'd just like to kind of support that from the standpoint of Judiciary Committee. We've run into this issue a number of times, and I think the 15,000?
Yes.
Yeah, that is really an investment that's going to save us probably a lot of staff time and also errors and not knowing what we have and losing opportunities. So I think that's a good thing to do.
And then one item that isn't in here, and Randy brought this to my attention just as we're walking in, is an item related to the postage machine. Randy, I'll let you.
Right, so the item number 7030, $1,140, that was $285 a month, or a quarter, excuse me, $285 a quarter for the postage machine. Our 5-year lease comes up this June, so I was contacted by Pitney Bowes, and that would go up to $1,569 a year if we stayed with them. The lease is going up with a comparable machine. We have the option of purchasing the existing machine we've had for 5 years. It's been working perfectly for $2,800, so that'll be 2 years worth of rental, basically. Not quite. So just a question whether we want to own the machine and possibly get a service contract, which I didn't ask about the service contract when you called me. I can find out about that. But at a minimum, it's going to have to go up to $1,355 this year and $1,569 in 2020. Unless we want to purchase it.
And then with my brief conversation with Randy, that Pitney Bowes is a very fine performing
It's a
machine.
workhorse, yeah.
And we've had no issues with it.
Correct.
Based off a purchase of $2,800, if we have it last more than 2 years, it pays for itself.
I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, I agree. It's a workhorse. Sporadically we do 100-some pieces, so it's the smallest machine you can get with the auto feed. So it's got a pretty good lifetime left in it. And the other thing I'd like to point out on the unemployment insurance, Mike, I didn't realize, $5,000, I have one employee, so you could probably,
Cap that.
yeah, or, yeah.
Okay, so we can make that 2,500?
Yeah, or, whatever, whatever, yeah.
And then we do the rental and leasing 70/30, make that 2,800?
28 plus 560, because
So, but call it
70.
32.50.
Yeah, because we have 2 quarterly payments to make plus that purchase. It's 285 twice plus 45, whatever that is.
To keep it clean, I would just divide that $5,000 between those 2 accounts. What's left over is unemployment.
Yeah.
That way you're not changing the clerk's accounts in total.
I'm sorry, if you say that again, Alderman.
I would just take what you need out of the unemployment line item, because it's high, give it to where you need the $2,800 and the $550, and what's left over, keep it in the employment.
Okay, so then unemployment would go down to 1,750.
It's no more than you need for 1 employee, probably.
Okay, and we're hoping not to spend it. Okay, so then unemployment would go to 1,750, and then the remainder would go towards the 70/30.
Could you clarify, Janelle? I think you might have the number there, but the split for Linda and me for water and clerk.
Oh, I still have to do that. I'm sorry. I forgot about it.
No, I think it's already in there a little bit.
We'll check into that.
But I believe like mine is 50/50 and hers is 70/30 or something.
Okay, and see, that's good. I need clarification on that because I thought it was 75/25. So
Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers, but
Okay.
but I do a fair amount of water as well, and that's already been split out.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll clarify, we'll check with you tomorrow and make sure that's reflected in the updated document. Any other questions on the clerk's office? Going on to 404 Alderman, no change.
Where's Dexter?
Want a motion?
I want to talk about this one. I'm just kidding.
It wants to be heavy. I don't care, I don't see it anyway. So.
Yeah.
Any questions or concerns on 404? Moving on.
Excuse me.
Yes.
To to the aldermen. To clarify, I'm just asking this to clarification or just a thought. Prior to whatever year it was, we combined your compensation of $300 a month with your salary. Now it's all salary because to avoid the bringing receipts and all that stuff that the state wanted and was forced into us, so we combined it. Some other ones I see that they had travel expense or how the alderman can be compensated for. Is it still understood it's going to be coming from the 300 from their salary? Or do they get a line item for $50, $100 for
No,
expense?
we just get the one check and that's it.
We just got
Yeah, we continue what we did in 2018, you just get the one check that covers both your salary as well as any expenses that you make.
That's what I'm just going to get clarified. So here it's not on there. On some other departments, we have travel expenses and all that stuff, or expenses. So
Yes, the
we're all
decision,
clear on the alderman, because that was asked of me a couple times. You know, if we have all the expenses, my response was that $300 put in their salary comes out of your pocket.
yes.
Okay, so that's, so we're all on the same page on that.
Moving on to 409. This one did go up. And the reason for the increase overall is at 6510 telephone. What we did is we took the Cook County dispatch that was in the 911 account and we moved that into telephone expense for any Cook County, Cook County police-related service calls. This is an item I would like to talk with you about. I've heard comments from some of the aldermen where they would like to keep service calls for police and fire in a 911 account, and that would just be the only two items in that. I believe for fire, I moved the fire service calls into, I think, other contractual over there. I would like some direction from City Council on how they would like to see the Cook County and the Orland dispatch costs accounted for and what department you'd like that in. At the time when I made this decision, I was saying, well, it's a telephone call, we'll put it into the telephone under general administration, but upon thinking about it more, since it's a police-related call, maybe it should go into police, and if it's a fire-related call, maybe it should go into fire.
That's what I would
I think that
think.
makes sense.
I would think police should go in police and fire into fire.
Okay, then the next question is, there's still lines for telephone for both police and fire, but since it's an other contractual, it should probably go into other contractual and police and other contractual into fire.
Separate line item.
Okay. Then we will make that change.
Yeah, just, but I would like to see it separated out from other contractual if they have other contractual.
We could call it
Not just
service
911.
calls, or
Yeah.
Cook County service
Yeah.
calls and Orland dispatch service
Yeah.
calls.
Yeah.
That way it's very clear within police and fire what those are.
What we're paying for the service.
Then that's the change that we will make, and that will adjust all the figures on general admin. Let's see if there's any others. We did go up a little bit with building maintenance and repair by $5,000. This building is getting older, and towards the end of the year, we had some unforeseen repairs that need to happen. I would like to have a little bit of money for any other unforeseen repairs for City Hall. We do have a leaky roof that we know of and we have documentation of, and that's a very pitched roof. So those are a little bit more to repair. I know the main stairwell in City Hall is, I don't know what's underneath that carpeting, and it's not too stable. And the fire escape. There's also a leak in the back where we keep most of the building plans. Okay, so we're constantly moving those when we do get rain to make sure those don't get wet. I don't like that as a practice. We have a leaky roof. Let's see here. The engineering, I did speak with Eric Alvarez to get a exact figure on what the engineering is projected to be. You will see legal fees did increase based off of what the actual was for 2018, but still a little bit less than what the actual was.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
So your actual in 2017 was 700,000. I'm rounding up.
So I'm sorry, for which item?
So on legal fees,
Yes.
we spent 694,000 and change. So let's say 700,000 in legal fees in 2017, the actual amount. And I know we budgeted under budget with the appropriation last year, and we went to 918,000 this year. I'd like to keep in mind with 17's actual at $700,000.
Yes, and if I recall from the discussion last year, we presented a 700,000 for 2018, and that was changed as we were going through the budget.
And I'm going to say, because we had some excruciating circumstances in the last year, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But I would think we should be closer to where we're at 17, or even less than 17. God's hoping.
Make it 600,000.
600,000?
I'll go with the mayor. I was going to go 7, but 6. I mean, realistically,
I'll go 6.
we had some situations last year. I'm not going
In
to
fact,
deny
there were a lot
it.
of cases before this administration that we had to resolve.
So just, I'd like to lower that.
600,000.
600 is fine.
600 it is.
Unless you want to do it at $500,000. You know what? $500,000.
$500,000, the mayor. All right.
$500,000.
500,000.
That's where it was the last few years.
I cut it down to 500,000.
And then Alderman Carr, you'll see under, at the very bottom, 7140, that corresponding expense for the tax anticipation warrant, going back to the revenue that we've discussed at the beginning.
Okay. Thank you. Under 6653, we may have talked about this and my mind was elsewhere, but we've got 25,000 listed for property maintenance, and last year we spent 307.
Yeah, I want to pull up the detail, but I would only spend 307, but
There's a grant probably, I'm thinking. Sounds like we had a grant.
The year before, we only spent 1,700.
This is grass cutting, I'm assuming?
We did have a grant.
Could that be part of the abandoned property program?
That's where I'm thinking, that where the dollar amount's different. Something sticks in my mind, we talked about this last year.
Well, there's under abandoned house expense. Last year we appropriated, this line 72, we appropriated 50 grand. And we only spent 72.50. So I don't know if that's where the grass cutting grant comes in, is under abandoned house expense.
so the abandoned, or I'm sorry, the 6653, the $307, that was for Greenfields Landscape Inc. back in September, is the majority of that. And Greenfields Landscape
It's grass cutting.
That's grass cutting.
Is that grass cutting on city property or grass cutting in abandoned homes?
It would be abandoned homes.
The next question is, where's the rest of it? Because I know we have a lot more than $300 for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, but a lot of the grant funds, the grass cutting is all reversed.
Yeah, so I'm trying, where is it at in here? And I'm asking.
It's right down the line.
Let me make a note of that and get back to you.
And then the abandoned house expense. In 2018, we allocated 50 grand and we spent $72.50. I see we've got nothing for this year.
Are you talking about for 72? Or which?
72 we
That was
got.
in the old, they changed it to the new sheets we got.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Yeah, for the new sheet. It's
Okay, so
going,
they,
it's going.
well, but it should be there. If it was appropriated in 2018, it should still be on the sheet. They can't just erase it.
The 7050 was for, looks like, signs, so that must have been some type of, in March, so that must have been some of, maybe doing that or coming down soon. Not sure. You know, can we look into the abandoned house?
That may have been the one Mike on the Montel property.
It might be
Yes.
those two big banner.
Yeah.
Yes.
We also use for the Division Street Bridge and for the Chatham Bridge.
And so also you'll verify whether there was a $50,000 appropriation or not.
For what line item?
For 7072. If you look back in your previous sheet, the one that we had before this.
Oh.
So that's what the question's coming from. It says 50,000. In the older sheet.
Yeah, we will look into 7072. Okay, so the 50,000. Any other questions on general admin? Okay, next one, Fort County Police Department. Please come on up. Chief, do you want to point out some of the highlights for this? I would like to point out the salaries do include the 2.5% retro for 2018, as well as the 3% cost of living, which was agreed upon in the contract. Other highlights, we did increase the training budget, $5,800. This past year, we did an active shooter training. We want to expand upon that, and the police department wants to do some additional training for their officers. Other highlights, tasers, which I think we called that, what's the number? 6140. We're going to be putting in for tasers for all of our officers. Right now, not all of our officers do have tasers, or the ones we do have are expiring.
Our tasers are at end of life. At the end of this year, taser will no longer support their product unless we upgrade. So we're in a position where we have to upgrade and move forward with taser if we choose to carry it.
Let me add this, in the future, and it can't be done this time, body cams.
We looked into body cams. I believe that the logistics behind body cams might be a little more than we can afford at this point. Because they're subject to freedom of information, all video has to be downloaded, has to be maintained, and be available for.
From my understanding, what, 7 years or 6 or 7 years?
I believe it's 7 years. I can double check though. So right now, the body cams they're inexpensive, but the logistics and the infrastructure for those will probably be over expenses.
The other item I would like to point out is 6620 professional consulting. We did increase that to 45,000. That's so we can do a facility assessment to make sure that we have the correct cameras, door access control, and other safety guards in place so we can monitor the cells, we can have accurate audio recording, as well as the data storage associated with maintaining video and audio. So that would be a consultant to come in and say, okay, this is what you currently have, this is what we're recommending that you should have, this is the approximate cost that would be associated with installation and maintenance of that. So I don't think in 2019 we'd be able to do the full improvement, but we don't know how much that improvement is going to be until we get somebody to come in and help us with that. And if we can phase those improvements in and prioritize them, I think we would do that.
I got a question.
Yes.
Under salaries, full-time sworn officers, we have about $200,000 increase. Is that only for raises, promotions, that for any additional staff?
That is not for, well, it's to get us back up. Currently, how many offices are we down based off of our numbers? I believe
We've got, one that we did just started, we've got projected to hire 2. We want to complement our police department total to be 37, that we have projected to be in 2017.
and what are we at right now?
34.
34. So we're down 3 officers. That would be, the salaries include the cost of living as well as the step increase. We are anticipating, well, how many are eligible for retirement this year? I think you said.
We've got several that have contemplated retirement. I believe there's at least 5.
That are eligible for. So then there would be, the good part about that is then you're hiring somebody at the lower rate. But then there would be promotions also associated with upward mobility.
Just to clarify, in the rates, you're between 5,100 to 5,300, all the salary ones. So just generally asking a question, is there any plans to increase any administrative staff in the police department?
I believe that's achieved.
Or is it just to increase patrol?
Could you speak up, please?
Is any of these increases, regardless of the increases, are you planning to increase any administrative positions this year or patrol positions? We know there's a demand for patrol positions.
Yes.
Is there any plan for to increase administrative positions?
No, no plan to.
Then that answers my question.
Chief, what trainings are you planning for this year? We've been investing a lot of money in training, and now you're asking for almost double the amount. So what, do you have a strategic plan for your trainings for this year?
If I may. I'm sorry if I may. We do have a plan. We have to have quarterly training for force on force. But with respect to the budget, we're looking at budgeting for new hire trainings. If we send them to the Illinois State Police Academy, we're looking at roughly $4,000 per trainee. Supervisory school, we're looking to send 2 officers or 2 supervisors to the school police staff and command, roughly about $4,000 each. We have an annual membership for training with Beamer, $4,000. We're looking at 2 part-time police officers, the academy for them would be $4,000. Power test, $300. So we do have a schedule in anticipation for training. We're looking at Force Science Institute training. We're looking at critical incident training. A lot of these classes are offered through NEMERT for our membership, but because they're free, they fill up quickly. Sometimes we have to go to other vendors, and those vendors will charge us about $390 a person for the critical incident training. What we're trying to do is have our officers better trained to deal with mental health issues. We do have an increase in mental health calls, particularly because of the calls to the hospital. We have patients that leave the facility against medical advice. So we want to make sure that the officers are properly trained to handle those situations. Our records training, as of 2021, the FBI is going to be moving away from UCRs and moving to members. Our records personnel has to be properly trained to report in accordance with members. We're a little early, but I'd rather be ahead of the game than behind it. So as we have right now, we've got roughly $39,000 in training expenditures, and that's given us a small cushion for incidentals.
Go ahead.
Got a question. It's not really related, but it is related for vehicle purchases I see on here. Years ago, now I'm not really familiar with how the police department's been lately. What is the program where we used to have somebody and the drug forfeiture stuff, will we be able to get squad cars? Are we still in that program?
Yes. So as of April this year, we enlisted Warniak with the DEA task force. Any assets that he receives, we can use those funds, allocate those funds to purchases of equipment that have a nexus to drugs or drug interdiction. We have used those to purchase squad cars in the past. We have been
It's been several years though, right?
It's been several years. We have explored options with the city to buy vehicles. Money's tight, so we'll be looking at, if the money becomes available, we'll be looking to use asset forfeiture money to equip vehicles, purchase vehicles and equip them. The only caveat to that is that, I believe it was 2016, the law regarding equitable sharing changed. So they basically said that your asset forfeiture does not supplant any line item budget. So,
It would be above and beyond what we give you on the line.
yes, so basically we can supplement it. So if you buy a squad car, we can use.
That's why it says related but not related. I
It's,
support increasing the fleet.
I,
I just wanted to ask my curiosity.
No.
We're out of the program, and I'm glad we're back in.
Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned that because we do expect some financial relief.
All right.
We're doing well in it and hopefully continue doing it.
And so we did include the quarterly appropriation of $105,000, which gets us, is it 2 or 3? Two squads. And then we can supplement that with the forfeiture to hopefully get another 2.
3 questions. Well, one, for 6113, you have nothing for tire repairs. Are they not going to anticipate any tire issues?
No, we increased, we lumped it into vehicle maintenance and
Okay.
repair.
For
For truck parts, I'm sorry, truck parts rather.
6695, I don't know if you mentioned it, or whatever, the 750, what is the other contractual services?
750, that is for Johnson Controls alarm system monitoring. And then we will be doing, yes, the alarm system monitoring.
Okay, and then 7045, employee/office service.
It looks like we haven't spent anything for the past couple of years on that. Oh, that is new. We want to get a cleaning service. But right now we do have LUCAP that comes in and assists with the cleaning. However, there are certain things that they do not clean based off their agreement with the city. We want to have a cleaning service come in and supplement LUCAP to maintain the building.
I just have a comment. It just seems strange to me, between Friday, when this document came out, and today, when you handed us this document, the police department has spent an additional $600,000. Friday's document that came out said the actual was $3.5 million, and this document says the actual is $4.1 million.
We updated the salaries because we had.
There was a discrepancy in the salaries, and myself and H&L, we talked about it to ensure that we had the most accurate information at the time. So a couple of things were updated and adjusted, and these are the closest to accurate numbers that we have for salaries.
Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but the annual police report that was distributed to the aldermen said that salaries had decreased in the police department. And this is showing the opposite. Now, that was the document that the police department put out. It said that salaries had decreased because Director Rita was gone and Deputy Chief Cornell were gone, and that salaries had decreased. And now it looks like they actually have increased.
if I may. I have a total of salary expenditures, account number 5100 at 2.7. These are the numbers that I obtained through Paycom, our payroll system. I didn't have any numbers for Mr. Rita or Mr. Cornell. And again, this is numbers that I extract from Paycom. I believe Janelle uses Smart Fusion.
So I guess my question is, are salaries really down or are they really up?
Well, at this point, the salaries are going to go down because we were paying for retired employees. We were paying a couple of retired employees out, and we're actually done paying them out.
I mean, for 2018. I'm not talking about going forward. For 2018, we were told that salaries for the police department went down, and now it looks like they actually went up.
Yeah, I stand behind the number. I have $2,787,201.25 for full-time salary, counting 5,100. Those are the numbers that are extracted from Paycom, excluding Mr. Rita and Mr. Cornell, because I had to do access for those numbers.
We don't know what their numbers would have been, and that's what comes out.
We do know what their numbers were, though. We don't know what they would have been, but we do know what they were paid, and what actual salaries are shouldn't be, it shouldn't, whether it's Paycom or ADT or the numbers, I mean, I was an accountant for 14 years. The numbers should add up no matter which payroll accounting system you're using, they should match. And I don't know how this went up $600,000.
Can I look at the documents that you're looking at between what was handed out on Friday?
Okay, this is what we were handed on Friday.
Because I'm confused.
Okay. What we were sent.
What are you looking at? Are
What
you
we
looking
were-
at 5101?
Okay, well, at first I was just looking at this.
Okay.
What we were sent on Friday said 3,000,005 was the actual. Now it says 4,000,001 was the actual. So over the weekend, we've added $600,000. Now up here, it says full-time sworn officers, 2,000,004. This is full-time sworn officers, 2,000,008. There's $400,000 right there.
Would that be from, retro?
Yes, actually,
That'd be
yeah,
retro.
we sat and talked and we tried to come as close as we could based on the information that I have, which is in Paycom, which is what's uploaded every pay period. So those are the total numbers that I use. He has the raw data that he looks at in Paycom. Mine is actually the system, the numbers of record that we will be using for the audit and everything else.
Okay, so police salaries have actually been gone up over last year, significantly.
Which, I'm sorry, just, are you looking at like the line 5,100?
5,100.
Okay, so
What?
right now it says 17 was 2,894 and 18 was 2,858, is that what we're looking at?
Right.
So I mean, it's slightly down.
Well, what we were sent on Friday said.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, it was 2,000,004 on Friday, and now it's 2,000,008.
Right, I see that, but I mean, if we look at what we got in front of us right now, they're saying the salaries basically changed, and they went down $4,000 or something. Well, no, 40,000.
400,000.
We're just looking at the most recent sheet, line
Okay.
5,100, right? And the actual 17 was 2,894, and the actual 18 was 2,858. Then salaries went down $40,000 on that line. Not a lot,
Okay,
but
and that's just one line, full-time civilian,
I see, okay, yeah, right, went up, right, gotcha.
okay, that went from 317 to 369, so it went up. On Friday it was up already, and today it's up another 50 grand.
Alderman Carr, I don't have an answer for you right now, but we can look into finding out what was different from what was sent out on Friday and what was handed out this evening.
Because, Alderman Hawley, you're an accountant. I mean,
Well,
numbers.
it's the one that you had delivered to us, not the one that.
Oh, from two Fridays
Yeah,
ago.
that's,
Oh, that, yeah.
This is just from last Friday, from February 1st that Lori sent us.
Oh, Again, Alderman, I don't have an answer in front of me, but I can look into that pretty fast.
There's a question up. Go ahead.
Officer
Ish.
We hired 3 new officers under that program. And we get for 3 years or 4 years, whatever, the 75%.
That's for the fire department.
Pardon?
That's under the SAFER grant for the fire department,
That was fire.
and we're on the police department.
Just the police?
Yes.
So the police did never have that before?
Right.
I believe we were under the Safe Communities Act in '98, where we hired 7 back in 1998. Since then, I'm not aware of any grant that we used to hire employees. Maybe we can research into that.
He wants to know if we ever checked into it to see what is qualified for such a program.
Oh, I'm sorry, absolutely.
We could look into it.
Again, I think you said there's going to be 4 or 5 people retiring possibly. If we can get hired, like the fire did, 3 officers for 3 years at a certain percentage,
Absolutely.
that would reduce the salaries quite a bit.
We'll get back to you on the difference between the Friday documents and what's handed out today. Are there any other questions for the police department?
Telephone. If their 911 calls have been put into general, why are they asking for, I mean, we spent $9,000 on telephone costs in 2018, and now they're asking for $20,000 for 2019? What is that?
Yeah, the actual that we spent for 6510 telephone, we budgeted for 11,000. It came in at $11,809. Oh, and that is for cell phones. Some of our officers don't have cell phones and we need them to perform their duties. So that is the corresponding increase between what was appropriated in 2018 and what we're looking to appropriate in 2019.
The other thing, Ms. Scarlett, that is our equipment in our squad cars, with respect to our mobile connections. We're using Verizon equipment that operates off of cellular service, and that might explain an increase. Our parking ticket devices also operate on cellular service. We have a total of 42 lines designated to the police department, roughly at $40 a line. That includes squad cars, mobile ticketing devices, and cellular lines.
And then as was discussed earlier, we're going to put a line in there for Cook County Dispatch for the cost for that, and then final document.
It'll be at 6510.
No, we're gonna title, it'll be 6511 or something else. It'll be titled Cook County Dispatch Services, or whatever is appropriate for the answer. Any other questions for the police department? 420, Fire Department, Chief. I want to go over some of the highlights of additions to the project. The first one to point out would be the 6595, we're going up to $250,000. That's going to be the Orland Dispatch. We're going to retitle that and have another number assigned to that. We also have in there under 8050 at the very bottom, vehicles that would be for the purchase or the annual cost for potentially an ambulance. And then what are the other significant ones here, Chief?
Well, I did want to make one correction to tires, but
The Chief has one for tires, 6113.
instead of the 17, or the 250, 1750, that was, we had just gotten a quote for 4 tires for the ladder truck that needed to be replaced at some point this year.
And how much is that?
The total would be 1373.34 is the quote. 1373.34.
So 1500.
Yeah, if I can ask, what is the 7,500 for professional consulting for?
What line is that?
It's 6620.
Oh, that's for the pension board, the Foster and Foster actuarial services for the fire pension board. we could probably lower that.
Alderman Thompson, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. At the very top, salaries full-time and then salaries part-time, 3,000. Are you gonna initiate another part-time fireman program?
No,
Or
this
what?
is,
What's that?
that would be for either an intern or someone to help with the data input for the EMS reporting software going back 6 to 8 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but you've got 10,000 something in that other department for that.
Yeah, I want to split it between full. We need to look at the special projects throughout the entire city. One of the ones that we definitely know would be the EMS reporting software. Another one would be for the performance evaluation and salary schedule. There could be special programs relating to marketing or building. I know that there's.
You're gonna let an intern do performance evaluation?
No, I want them to do some general research so that we can see what other communities do. And no, definitely I don't want an intern to do that. But I need some data to help formulate a well thought out program. I think it would be best to spend an intern at $10 an hour rather than to gather the data than spending my time or chief's time to gather that data.
Chief, why are you asking for an increase in overtime? I know we used a lot last year, but isn't that situation kind of resolving itself?
I would hope so. That's the goal going forward, but again, on your guys' request or recommendation, it was figured at 100,000 because we were over for last year. But yes, hopefully we don't have the injuries that we did last year. We don't have the people off as long, and we will be fully staffed going into there. Obviously, in this year we are fully staffed, so yes, that should be done.
And already this year with the severe weather last week and tonight, Chief has asked me to have extra staff on because of potential for accidents and injuries and fire department calls, and I want him and his staff to be able to respond to those calls. And with
I
that,
understand that, but that's kind of a winter thing, so, I guess I'm asking if we could go back to the 85,000. Because if we're fully staffed now, and just, to say, well, last week was kind of tough, it was 2 days, and it is winter, and that kind of stuff happens every winter. So that should be kind of a built-in.
I'm going to defer to Chief on what he thinks would be an appropriate number for overtime.
I mean, if you want to go back to 85, we certainly can. I mean, I obviously can't predict the future and injuries and everything else. So, I mean, that was a large part of it, is we didn't have 3
I
individuals
understand,
hired.
no one can predict the
Right,
future.
so, I mean, we didn't have 2 people hired, and we had 3 people off due to injuries for almost 5 months, which obviously ate into a lot of the overtime. So, I mean, 85 is conservative, where we're at.
I like to be conservative, especially because we're spending 12 million more than we're bringing in. I feel like every penny is going to end up counting in the end.
85.
What'd you make it 90?
I was going to say, it doesn't mean you're going to use it just because we appropriate for it, so.
No, it doesn't, but I'm trying to work towards a balanced statement. We can't say we're going to have whatever this says. I mean, don't me look up the exact numbers, I'll find them.
We
But
just say
if we're only gonna
$400,000
have-
for the legal fees, so we can use it there.
Well, what are we charging? We're charging what, 20-some thousand?
I know, but this appropriations document has 33.9 million in expenses. and only, if we're lucky, 29.8, which I brought up earlier, is really more like 24.7 million. We're missing about $12 million.
Well, it's, yeah, I mean, yes and no. Last year, we appropriated 33.6, and we spent 24.3, so I mean, I think we all know the appropriation number is, I don't know what you call it. I don't think anybody's expecting to spend that kind of money.
I know, I think the number should be closer.
Well, that's fine, I just,
You
it's
know,
not, we're not
your
planning to spend $12
expected
million more
income
than we're taking
and your expected outgo should be a little more balanced. It should be closer than 12 million. You know, if you were, if your expected income and your expected outgo were up by 12,000 in your personal life, you know, if you figured you were going to be spending 48,000 but only bringing in 36,000 for the year, you'd be concerned.
Well,
And this is just a couple more zeros on the end, but it's a lot of money.
Well, I've heard, originally staff proposed 100, I heard 85, I heard 90. Again, staff is open to any input or thoughts that the council has on what that number should be, and we'll do our best to work within those means. But like Chief said, we can't predict injuries.
And I think
Well, why don't we make it
something,
90?
well, something as important as the fire department, I don't think we should cut somewhere else, cut 20,000 somewhere else.
I've heard Nancy Thompson say 90, the mayor said 90. If that's the pleasure of the council, we'll go with 90 and we'll do our best.
That sounds like it sounds good.
90. Okay, if there's no other question on fire, 423, emergency management.